Podcast with your host, Jake Weaver. Engineered by Cedric Swan. Hey, everybody. We're back with another episode of Midnight on Earth. I'm your host, Jake Weaver, and yet again, we're here to give you more knowledge, more information, and more love. We are here today with incredible woman, Kayci Mitchell. We're going to have an incredible conversation with her. You're going to love it. She's the president of and the executive director. Let's give her all the titles. Portland Psychedelic Society. Already it sounds cool. It's something you want to join. It's like the society I want to be a part of. But before we dive in with Kayci, just got a few things I need you to do for me, because we have this incredible relationship. We're building this podcast. It just gets better and better and better every episode. So we need to get this information out to more people. And how do we do that in this digital age, the 21st century? Instagram is what I hear. It's what I'm using, besides the internet. Instagram. So I need you to follow me on Instagram at midnight_on_earth. At midnight_on_earth. Follow us there. Go to Spotify. Subscribe to us there. Whatever podcast platform you use, please feel free to subscribe. And of course, the biggest thing of all, the biggest thing that you can do for me, as my friends out there, and you're going to be friends with Kayci, and we're all just going to be friends. As my friends out there around the world, please tell a friend. You know people that love these kinds of topics, that want to know about the Portland Psychedelic Society. Tell that person, and then tell that person to tell another person, et cetera, et cetera. And then we'll grow the audience. It's just going to be better and better and better. And there's so much cooking. There's so much developing. There's so much coming. It's gonna be amazing. So we all have to do our part. I have to do my part. And I'm asking for your help. Tell everyone, Midnight on Earth. And now we're here with Kayci Mitchell, which is so awesome. We're so blessed, so lucky to be here with her. So let me tell you about who Kayci is. Kayci Mitchell is a certified transformational life coach and gifted intuitive healer with many years of experience in helping individuals transcend a wide range of negative states of health on all levels. She has over 37 years in the field of addiction recovery. She's a certified transformational life coach with training through Being True to Coaching organization, a mastermind group facilitator, licensed massage therapist, Reiki master, nutritional consultant, and certified in numerous other healing modalities. Also an incredible human being. Let's just put that on the resume. And the president and executive director of the Portland Psychedelic Society. Hello, Kayci. How are we doing today?
Hi, Jake. I'm doing great. We are doing great.
I'm so glad that you're here today.
Me too.
You know, for people that want a little behind the scenes information, Kayci and I have been working really hard to get together. We keep connecting on the phone, and we wanted to do this podcast really bad. Both of our schedules are so hectic, but it finally came together. It's a perfect storm right here, right now. She's with us, and I'm so thankful, so glad you made us. It's behind the scenes. It took a little bit for us to come together, but here we are to talk about the Portland Psychedelic Society. So first, let's talk about what that is. And On their website, I'm just going to read one paragraph. It just says, Portland Psychedelic Society is a community of people who come together to foster evolutionary work on ourselves and help others integrate their experiences and foster their self-work. We emphasize creating an atmosphere of safety and mutual guidance and support, honor, trust, and integrity. All great qualities. We are a gathering of spiritual seekers, curious intellectuals looking for physical, psychological, or emotional healing, or to offer help to those who do. Oh, I love these guys. I'm in. Everyone has a role that gives meaning and relevance to the group as a whole. That's so beautiful. Portland Psychedelic Society. I'm so glad I discovered this thing. So tell me, how did you get involved with Portland Psychedelic Society?
Well, can I talk a little bit about? Well, in order for me to talk about that, I need to talk about what my journey has been.
Okay, I just wanted to touch on that, but let's go back. Let's go back in time.
Okay.
Let's talk about psychedelics. What was your first interaction with psychedelics that led you to the road to Portland Psychedelic Society?
Well, of course, when I was younger, I used psychedelics. Then I entered into an abstinence-based recovery program where psychedelics were completely not allowed. So
you had problems with other substances that led you to the recovery situation.
Yeah, I was a teenage alcoholic.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
alcohol's not a great drug.
You know, it was a tremendous gift because it led me to a 12-step program, which is basis of my spiritual program that I practice today. But I had to evolve out of the abstinence-based program, which is what brought me to psychedelics. About 7 years ago, I had a friend of mine who was a salesperson for one of the premier Ibogaine clinics in Baja, Mexico. Ibogaine is a medicine that's used right now. There's a lot of clinics that use it for detox, for addiction.
Okay.
And at first, it was like, what is this whole thing that somebody can take this medicine, a heroin addict can take this medicine and then not have heroin withdrawals? It's like, it seemed unbelievable to me. And then the more I found out about it, I found out that this is a real thing. And so that was my introduction. I didn't do the medicine, but it was my introduction to this new world of treating addiction. And so I started moving into finding out more about that and ended up having my own experiences.
So did you try it with the Ibogaine? You tried the Ibogaine yourself?
I did not. Ibogaine is so that these clinics work with blood doses.
Uh-huh.
I recommend, it's very important to have it be in a medical setting to a certain degree. And I have a condition that would not allow me to be able to do an Ibogaine treatment.
I see.
But there's lots of other psychedelic medicines that help, treat the mental, emotional, spiritual contributing factors to addiction.
But that was your first interaction point, your first interface point with this psychedelic treatment for addiction. And that really interested you. So then
it really interested.
So then did you start doing research into other psychedelics that may have therapeutic benefits in that realm?
Absolutely, I did. So the treatment model at that time, or the treatment model that this clinic was working with, is that you would get the flood dose treatment with Ibogaine, and then they would bookend it with treatment with a medicine called 5-MeO-DMT, which is referred to as this God molecule, the spirit molecule.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing medicine. So that was actually the first medicine that I tried once I started investigating
So
this.
so after Ibogaine, you then discovered DMT as the next therapeutic psychedelic drug, and this one you actually tried yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me about that experience. So this was your first DMT experience, and you tried the 5-MAO DMT, which is different than the NN-DMT. For people that don't know, the
Mm-hmm.
5-MAO DMT is natural, and I believe it's harvested from the frogs.
It is. Yeah.
And the NN-DMT is synthesized. So you had the natural 5-MAO DMT experience, and then we talked with Chris Dyer, psychedelic artist, visual artist. He talked about that in episode 8. So here we are. We're back with Kayci Mitchell talking about this again. I love the synchronicities of all the episodes. So what was your experience with it? Tell me what happened.
Well, first, so 5-MeO DMT, it's from the Sonoran Desert frog, and it's taken from their venom, and it's dried, and then it's put into a form of a powder form, and it's smoked.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I had no idea. My friend just said, hey, the doctor who this doctor is going to be doing these sessions, and we went to a hotel room, and they had these really cool lights and this awesome music, and so he just said, okay, here you go, you're just gonna sit here, and we're gonna light it, and you're just gonna take this smoke in, and we'll take care of you after that. And I had no idea what this experience was going to be, and it was absolutely fabulous. So what they'll refer to it as breaking through. So with the 5-MeO DMT, most people don't remember what their experience is. So you just break through. They refer to it as completely dissolving the ego.
Right.
When I came back out of it, I knew bliss. I knew sheer unity. I knew absolute infinite gratitude. I knew infinite love. It was just, there are no words to describe how I felt.
Do you feel like, even though there's no words to describe it, do you feel like you crossed the threshold of knowing, from like wondering to really, is it this way? Is there a divine dimension? Is there something bigger than me? At that point, when you smoked it, did you cross the threshold where you now knew and it was a part of you?
Without a doubt, yes.
Okay. And but prior to that moment, you weren't actually there. But you were kind of there. You were like 95% there, but then that pushed you over to 100%.
Well, actually, it's really interesting in my healing work. So I do hands-on healing work, and in my sessions, there are like these moments and times where I refer to it as going into a medicine state. So there are times where I have experienced that, where there's absolute, total, complete connection, and everything really is in perfect divine order. And there's like where there's it just permeates my being. So from time to time, in my healing sessions, I will have that experience. But nothing like this. I mean, with the 5-MeO DMT, it's, all encompassing, and then it continues on after that.
Yeah, it's like a rocket ship to another dimension. I personally have only tried 5-MeO DMT one time, and all I remember is them going to the post-life dimension and then telling me it wasn't my time and I had to go back. Like, that's all I really remember. Like, you were mentioning that you don't remember, and I only tried it one time in my life, that specific type of DMT.
Yeah, it's people do need to be careful with it because it's a very, very powerful medicine, and it can be very destabilizing for some people.
Oh, definitely.
So the preparation and integration, which I had neither of, I didn't know anything about preparation at that time. So, now knowing what I know now, it's the preparation and integration and, having support of community and having support of, a coach or guide is really important, because some people do become destabilized with the 5-MeO.
So
DMT.
you saw the therapeutic value in the 5-MeO DMT, and then what's the next step after that? You have your profound experience. Is this something that you focus on to work as a medicine, or do you keep looking for more things that can be helpful in that same way?
In my own personal experience, I just kept searching.
Okay.
I've been a seeker all my life, and where I was at that time, I was very involved in 12-step programs, but I had my experiences of going through not being involved with it, and feeling abandoned, and we could go into that later.
Sure.
But what was happening at the time is that I was becoming aware of what's referred to as harm reduction treatment for addiction recovery, because there's abstinence-based treatment and then there's harm reduction treatment. The reason we call it harm reduction is because the traditional mainstream model is abstinence-based. So as I would sit in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I would see, people just coming and going, and a very, very small percentage of people actually stay and practice the program and become get recovery.
Sure.
And that is true for pretty much all treatment models. There's no way to get specific statistics on that, but it's actually a very small percentage of people who acquire recovery and just live in an awakened state, which is what the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous can take you to. So I started learning about these alternative treatments and finding out about how psychedelic medicines were helping people with depression, anxiety, addiction, trauma resolution, resolving these, early childhood traumas. And so I started stepping outside of this abstinence-based treatment model view. And it was really amazing to me. So back then, that was 7 years ago. So there was some people talking about it. Gabor Mate was talking about psychedelics, and there were people here and there. But at that time, it was still so far underground that it was difficult to get information about it, and people were not feeling able to speak about it openly. And that has changed drastically in the 7 years that I've been involved with it.
I've noticed that as well. There's been a huge opening of psychedelic research in the realms of PTSD and other types of therapeutic usage. It's pretty phenomenal. And what I'm noticing is that there's a lot of mainstream kind of push for psychedelics, like to normalize it. And before we were stigmatized, and it was this almost demonic substance. Now it's being slowly reintroduced into pop culture in a way where it's not stigmatized, where it's very normalized. And then you think of where we live in Portland. For people that are out there around the world, in Portland right now, it's legal I don't want to say legal, but it's decriminalized to have 40 hits of acid. So if you have 40 hits of acid, you're high, you get searched, they find 40 hits of acid, you get like a ticket for like $500 or something. Nothing too serious. Whereas in years past, you could have had literally years of jail time for that same thing. So it seems like the public attitude has shifted a lot in the realm of psychedelics.
It really has. And with the passing, so the measure that you're talking about is 110. And then there's the other measure that passed, which is 109, which legalizes psilocybin assisted therapy.
Which is another huge victory.
It is a huge victory. I mean, there's, some people that argue about that because it's built on, capitalistic, colonialized,
profit driven.
Yeah. So there's, there's some argument about that, but the fact is that the psilocybin therapy is being legalized for individuals to be able to access, and it is being mainstreamed, which is absolutely amazingly huge.
Well, I don't think people realize the ramifications of people having positive psychedelic experiences and then growing from that. The legislative people, the people that have that frame of mind, it's hard for them to grasp the information that's in the psychedelic dimensions. So they just keep it in the third dimension, and they're processing it through laws and codes and various things. But
right,
what's going to happen is that it's going to shift the frequency of people in a very big way, because when you have lots of people taking psychedelics safely, because if you take it, and you're taking it and there's fear involved and there's other things, it changes the frequency, but it's legal. The frequency is different. It's safe. People are going to grow. People are going to change. It's going to make us a better country.
Well, it really does. And, I don't think we can talk about this without talking about the criminalization of psychedelic medicines.
Oh, yeah.
So I should know like the exact, name of the act, but it's, the war on drugs. So,
sure.
The movement war on drugs. And that was one of the things. It was important for me to get a little education on that when I first started finding out about the psychedelic medicines, because that really has developed this, this stigmatization and this whole point of view on what psychedelic medicine does. So LSD, right? Your child takes LSD, back in the 60s, your child takes LSD and they're going to freak out and jump off of a building, right? And that's not what happened with
right.
LSD. What actually was taking place at that time in the 50s and in the 60s is that there was medical research being done, and there's a whole there's countless papers and huge bodies of research that were done back in that time for treatment for mental health disorders and alcoholism and addictions. So there is and there was a medical purpose for these psychedelic medicines. So when they were put into a Schedule 1 category, part of what that says is that they have no medical purpose, and that there's a high abuse potential. And with the psychedelics, actually, neither one of those things are true. And now what's happening with this, people are referring to this time as the psychedelic renaissance, is that there are a lot of there's several privately funded organizations who are doing the research on what these medicines can do for people, how they're beneficial for mental health and treating addiction. So it's like it's all coming around again. and it's coming around in a more solid and more grounded way, because when we had the all the hippies and the free love, and they were connecting to this higher level consciousness, and they were connecting to this higher vision and this higher view. But when they were trying to carry that message to people in 3D, it just there were some things that kind of invalidated their message.
Well, it was very chaotic because the dosages were so all over the place, and compared to the LSD that's available on the black market today, it was incredibly more potent, and which is good in some ways, but can be destabilizing in other ways for the wrong personality type. So now it seems like the research is in place, the facilities are in place, the people that are distributing the LSD around the world, they have it in such a way where it's palatable to the average person. I've noticed that it seems like that they kind of stick to a certain recipe that gets distributed to the people around the world. Because, Albert Hoffman had his recipe at Sandoz, and then of course Owsley Stanley had his recipe, and then there's a couple other recipes out there. What seems to be out there the most in the black market at festivals and from what I understand on the internet is the white fluff LSD, which is very love based. It's very much like ecstasy, not very hallucinogenic per se, but just very powerful and love based. So it's really interesting how it's kind of refined itself over time, like you were saying.
Yeah, I'm not well versed in the specifics on the like the specifics on the chemicals with LSD. There are there's chemists, they make LSD. That's just what they do.
Yeah, there's just what I've noticed is that different recipes have different effects. So
well, and one of the things that I do need to say is that it's important for people to test the medicine.
Definitely.
And there's an organization called Dance Safe that you can acquire test kits through, because there are some things that people will add into LSD that you really don't want to have. Again, I'm not an expert on it.
There's a lot of research chemicals out there. People are buying research chemicals from China. They have some derivative components that activate serotonin, and then they sell it as LSD. Dance Safe's been around for a while, and I'm really glad that they're there because they really are helping people. If anybody out there is listening, wants a test kit, go to Dance Safe. Get a test kit so you know exactly what you're taking. I think that's the best advice in the world.
Yeah, well, and that falls right in line with what Portland Psychedelic Society is about. That we want to educate individuals on the safe, conscious, responsible use of the psychedelic medicines, and how to prepare for that, how to integrate your experience, how to do it safely and consciously. And so that's really what Portland Psychedelic Society, that's part of what Portland Psychedelic Society is about.
I want to get back to your story. So what happened? So you're noticing these psychedelic drugs. Did you get involved in treatment yourself? Did you set up a treatment center with psychedelics, or did you get involved with a treatment center?
I have been involved with a number of treatment centers in Baja, Mexico. So several Ibogaine clinics. I worked with one called Crossroads, which was one of the premier Ibogaine clinics in Baja, and they had an amazing program. It was a 7-day detox, beautiful house on the beach, an amazing clinic in Tijuana, and so I was able to work with them until they decided to close the doors. And after that, or actually kind of before and after that, I was working with Tyson Elliott, who was the person who introduced me to this world. And he had a number of projects that were pre-care and post-care Ibogaine treatment centers, because of what happened is people would go down for a 7-day treatment with Ibogaine, and they weren't having sufficient preparation before they went down, and then they didn't have any kind of integration practices after they had these experiences. So when you have a psychedelic experience, particularly when it's for addiction recovery, well, actually with the psychospiritual also, it's really important to learn how to take that experience and then have it fit into the everyday living that you already have set up. So with these Ibogaine treatment centers, that really was not happening. So people would come out, they'd go back into their old environment, they'd end up using again. The potential for them overdosing was actually higher because their tolerance level was very low. So they would potentially go and use the same amount of heroin that they were using before they had their detox, and they would overdose. So those experiences, watching people that were, kind of left flailing after going through detox, is really why I became passionate about this work, and passionate about helping to develop the preparation and integration process for individuals. So yeah.
So you were doing these Ibogaine treatments, but then that stopped. So then where did you go after that? What was the next step to maintain your relationship with psychedelics and healing?
Well, I went through the certification for coaching with with an organization called Being True to You, which it's an amazing coaching training. And I just kept working here and there in Baja with some projects with Tyson, and also maintaining my relationship with the coaching organization. Had a couple of clients that were, consistent clients. And, the work that I did in Baja, there were several different reinventions of the work that I did with Tyson. Actually, he was a hardcore addict alcoholic, and he actually died last year.
Oh no!
Yeah. So
you tried different methods. Sorry to interrupt there. So you tried different methods of approach when it came to how to treat people with Ibogaine. Maybe one wasn't working so you refined it, and you kept refining it as you went.
Kept refining, because the base detox for an Ibogaine treatment, people have that down. It's freaking awesome. It's amazing. But there's the preparation, the integration part of it.
Right.
I call it, it's an evolving treatment model. Using psychedelics, integrating psychedelics with addiction recovery and with mental health, they are evolving treatment models. And so we're pioneers. There's a whole bunch of us that are pioneers. There's MAPS, which is, they're the ones who are doing the clinical trials. So they're doing clinical trials actually with MDMA right now. They have a number of other trials that they're in process with. And then there's, people like me who are, on the front lines, working with individuals, and, people who are, trying to put together these treatment centers in Mexico, where these medicines are legal, or some of them are legal. And so, I think all of the experiences are valid and, have something to contribute. I've had some really very difficult experiences in Baja, and I'm grateful that I'm in Portland and that I'm sitting on the board of the Portland Psychedelic Society.
Well, I'm glad too, but I want to ask you, because you said your friend Tyson passed away and he had addiction problems, but yet he was helping you with these addiction recovery centers. But yet, was he an addict himself? Is that what happened? So what was the disconnect that he was helping people but then couldn't help himself?
Well, what's going off in my head is like ding, 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 ding. That's what, well, there were underlying causes that were not treated for him.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would say more that I was helping him develop these programs. And what would happen is he would put his entire heart and soul into helping others and developing, whatever project it was that we were working on. And he was on the bottom of the list of priorities for self-care and priority for treatment, which is pretty common in this field, I think.
Right. Putting others first and then not even thinking about your most basic mental and physical needs. Yeah,
it's codependency. Right? Codependency. And it's just a very acceptable way of being in our culture.
So Tyson passes away. Is that when you made the move to Portland?
Well, it did coincide, but it's not why. It was, I was actually a little pissed off at him for dying and not being able to help me.
Well, he is helping you. He is helping you from the other side. I'm not.
I would not be where I am without him.
There you go.
Yeah. And there is an organization in Baja now that is following the model that he and I were developing, and they're doing really good work. I mean, it's still, it's rough around the edges, but they're doing really good work. So there's a place for people to go where they can, experience different medicines, ayahuasca, psilocybin, 5-MeO-DMT. It's on the beach. There's a couple of shamans there. There's a sweat lodge. A little bit at a time, they've been building this program, and it is the model that Tyson and I had envisioned.
So being down there, just off the top of my head, I mean, are there people that are authentic like you and your friend Tyson and doing this real work? And are there other people that set up these kind of scenarios to take advantage of people, to just kind of give them drugs without actually being a shaman or really knowing anything about that? Or is that not really a thing?
No, that's a thing.
Okay.
That's a thing.
So people have to be careful.
People have to be careful. People have to be very careful, particularly with Ibogaine. Ibogaine is a medicine that people can have if you use it when you have other substances in your system. You can actually die from it. So Ibogaine is one of those things you have to be really careful about. This is a subject that comes up pretty regularly. How to choose a provider, how to choose a healer, how do you know? And again, it's, we're pioneers, and some people refer to it as the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's one of the reasons why community is really important, to have peers and have community. And again, that's what Portland Psychedelic Society is about. It's through the quarantine, there has been this incredibly rapid growth within Portland Psychedelic Society. And, again, that's one of the reasons why, knowing what I know about the world of psychedelics and people like coming in and learning how to use them, peer support is extremely important, and community connection and hearing other people's stories and finding out other people's experiences and being able to like choose who it is that you are going to work with the medicine. It's all important.
So like if somebody is looking for some kind of healing situation, they can go to the Portland Psychedelic Society website, they can figure it out. But what are some of the things just you feel like people should know that they can help scrutinize some of these people when they're deciding? Just wonder, what are some of the key things to notice between like a charlatan and somebody that's truly helping people?
Well, that's a little difficult.
Is it coupons? Like 25% off? Then it's a little sketchy.
Well, you want to make sure that someone has experience. They, more than a year. Okay. It depends on what you're looking for. With Ibogaine treatment, I say call me and I'll help you figure out who to go to, because there's all kinds of different treatment. There actually with all the medicine. So when people are talking about ayahuasca, I mean, you can go and get a one-on-one ayahuasca experience. You can go down to Mexico and there's genuine shamans. There are underground organizations in the States, or people who offer ayahuasca circles, which it's illegal. So
yeah, it's blowing up right now.
It's blowing up right now.
It's huge.
Again, I think part of it is intuition. Connecting with someone and finding out about who they are, finding out about what their organization is, and coming to Portland Psychedelic Societies and asking the questions.
Well, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, that's okay. And hear experiences of other people and how they have, vetted their medicine person.
Okay, so now we have you in Portland. We've led you up to in Portland. So now you're discovering the Portland Psychedelic Society. How did you find them?
Okay, so I have family up here, and my mother also passed last year of complications of dementia. So I was spending a lot of time up here, like over the last 3 years, or actually now it's been like 3.5, I think. Time seems irrelevant right now. So when I came up here, I connected with Portland Psychedelic Society. I was involved with an organization called LAMPS, which is the Los Angeles Medicinal Plant Society. And, Brad Adams is a friend of mine and said, hey, you need to know these people. And so my first event with Portland Psychedelic Society was when Shane Moss was, have you heard of Shane Moss?
I have not.
Oh my gosh. And he was on tour, and the proceeds from his tour were going to MAPS, which is the could you look up what MAPS is?
Yeah, it's a psychedelic. It's the psychedelic group that is a nonprofit that does all that incredible work. It's a really long name.
Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic something. Anyway,
we got it. Everybody knows what it is. It's out there. MAPS has a huge reputation.
Yeah, privately. Awesome, amazing. So Shane Moss, he actually has a documentary out now, and he was on tour with his comedy show, and it was amazing because he would do comedy about these psychedelic trips, but he also integrated like scientific information and education for people.
How interesting. So he added that extra layer.
Yeah, he did. And he's amazing. So that was my first event with Portland Psychedelic Society. It's like, okay, let's go to a comedy show. And then I came up and did some presentations with them. I was on a couple of panels, on a microdosing panel, on a integration panel. And when I moved up to Portland a year ago, summer, and they invited me to become part of the board. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of pretty cool because your vibe is so epic. You're so cool. You've been up here barely a year and they're just like, please join our board. Like, we need you.
I know, right?
Well, you're extra special. That's why you're here. We're very glad to have you here. They're very glad to have you too.
Jake, are you saying I'm extra?
You're extra amazing. You're 10 out of, you're 55 out of 10.
Okay, so let me finish the story. And you said, sure, I'd love to be on the board. And then the president, something happened with him and he left the board. And then the vice president, something happened with him and he left the board.
Oh no.
And so that position was open. So I left it alone for about a month and a half. And I said, it kind of seems like a no-brainer for me just to step into this position. And so the other board members were fine with that and voted me in. And I didn't realize what I was getting myself into.
What was the responsibility increase that happened?
Ridiculous. I had no idea what it meant to be president of the board. And there were the president of a board, a nonprofit organization. So just let me clarify.
Okay.
Portland Psychedelic Society is actually a project of PEERS, which is the 501c3. So PEERS is the psychedelic exploration. Oh, wait a minute. Psychedelic Entheogenic Exploration Research Society.
There you go. Wow.
Okay. Yes. So we are a 501c3 under the name of PEERS.
Okay.
The Psychedelic Society is a project of PEERS, so we operate under an assumed business name. The reason that we're called Portland Psychedelic Society is because it's very out there. That's who we are. It connects us with other psychedelic societies globally. There's a whole bunch of them. So when I became president, I started, looking into a lot of the details of what are required for a 501c3 to operate. And there was a lot of things that were not in place for that. So I started learning what goes into operating a 501c3, which I knew nothing about before becoming the president. And we have the board has expanded rapidly. When we went into quarantine, we moved everything online. So we had to get all of that figured out. It's really amazing. Everything that's happening behind the scenes with Portland Psychedelic Society is phenomenally amazing.
So tell me about some of the work that's going on right now. I mean, do you guys receive grants and other sources of funding? How are you guys staying afloat right now?
We're not ready for that.
Okay.
We have Portland Psychedelic Society, before I came on board, they had two major in-person conferences that were fabulous. So you can go on to the YouTube channel and you can see videos from current presentations. But there's a lot of videos from our past conferences. I believe there's a link on our website, which hopefully will be looking good by the time.
It looks great, actually. It looks really good right now.
Okay. So there was a couple of conferences that they had, and that was, a main resource for funds. So we're still we're floating on the last conference, which is great. But we have over 15 online groups a month. People can find out about those through Meetup, through our Portland Psychedelic Society Meetup. And so at this time, we're receiving donations from people through those groups. We have established, I was actually on the phone with a fundraising committee meeting just before you and I got on. And so there's different committees that are being developed. So we're developing a fundraising committee. We're getting everything, all of our ducks in order so that we can move into looking at receiving grants. We do have Aaron Eisen, who is the head of our education and research team. He has over 30 people on his team, with a couple of several different research projects that they're doing.
So it seems like PPS is going to explode here just around the corner.
PPS is exploding now.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's right now it's about getting systems and procedures in place to be able to support this amazing vision. So Jake, just let me.
Yeah, please tell me everything.
We can go woo-woo. Okay.
Yeah, we can go anywhere we want.
Okay. So with psychedelic medicines, we get connected with a higher level consciousness.
Of course.
So people will do their medicine. So it's important to set the intention for whatever it is, the information that you're wanting. You take the medicine, you move into this higher level consciousness and connect with whatever vision it is, whatever it is that the medicine's showing you. And then you come back down into the 3D and integrate this higher level vision. Now, that vision can come through, you can do it through meditation and visioning work, prayer, all kinds of different things. I mean, people get these downloads, right? They get a download for business. They go, oh my God, okay, I have to create this. So that's what's happening with Portland Psychedelic Society. But it's pretty cool because it's, psychedelics. So you take this medicine and you get these, all of these people are using these medicines, and then they have this giftedness that needs somewhere to go. And so they get to come to Portland Psychedelic Society and channel this giftedness. And being a part of Portland Psychedelic Society actually becomes a part of their integration process.
Because it gives them a people to bounce off of. It gives them a resource for their information they can gain from other people's experiences.
Well, information that they can gain, information that they can offer. So there's this seamless give and take that happens. So, if you become a volunteer with Portland Psychedelic Society, you have these gifts and talents that you're able to contribute to the organization. And then in return, what you get is connection with like-minded individuals, and you get, these positive mirrors of how freaking amazing you are because of, what you're able to contribute. In our groups, like I was saying, we have over 15 different groups. You have the people who show up who want to get information. You have the people who have experience and who are able to offer information and experience. You have these collectives that are all connecting with each other, and then they may connect outside of the organization also.
And it helps people, it helps shift the frequency because these connections that are building and building and building, we're spreading that information out through our ethereal mycelial network that we have. And that's what's going to help change the world. That's where the world genesis comes into play, where we're in that beautiful new world that we want to create so bad, where we're all together without conflict. But it takes the information that's coming from psychedelics, those downloads that you talked about. We need those downloads, but that's part of the process, though. Interestingly, psychedelics aren't like this abstract kind of thing that disrupted the matrix. They're actually part of the story, I think. What's your thoughts on
that? They are kind of like they add color to the story, and they make the story, and they make the story more real.
Yes.
They connect all the alienated parts of self of the story, and it's like they bring them all together.
So what are some of the groups that Portland Psychedelic Society hosts on meetup.com? So that's where people would find you if they're looking for more information. Not just Portland Psychedelic Society.org, which is the website that they have, but really you'd want to go to meetup.com because that's where all the groups are that you can sign up with. And you don't have to have any previous history with the group to join. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you have like starter groups and then maybe intermediate and advanced as more people, want to learn more?
Well, just so I don't forget, we do have we have Instagram, so you can join us on Instagram. We do have a private Facebook group, the Portland Psychedelic Society. We have Twitter.
And a Reddit page. Don't forget the Reddit page even.
Yeah, moderators who are doing a whole lot on that. But yes, we do have a Reddit page. And we do have a YouTube channel. So I just really stress that. The YouTube channel has... we have a lot of our presentations that are recorded and uploaded onto YouTube.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, you want to watch those presentations. They're right there. And it's just Portland Psychedelic Society is the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is Portland Psychedelic, it looks like.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So our groups, we have a number of support groups, men's support group, women's support group. We have a microdosing, one for BIPOC. There is a support group for integrating psychedelics for chronic pain. We have a mental health support group, and we have a veteran support group, which is new, and I'm very excited about that.
Wow.
There's in regards to the veterans, there is a presentation that was done by an organization called Heroic Hearts, and that's on the YouTube page or YouTube channel. And what they do, they connect vets with psychedelic medicine. So check that out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we have, I'm trying to think. So those are we have those reoccurring meetings. Oh yeah, I forgot the integration circles. So it's actually integration support circles. And then so there's two of those, and then there's two different kinds, but both addiction recovery related meetings.
So essentially the groups, they're designated by different titles. So people that fall into those categories, they have psychedelic experiences. They get connected with the doctors. They get connected with the people. They have the experiences. And then they come back to the meetup group and talk with other people in that same group, like veterans or whatever. Is that correct?
Basically, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So those are the support groups. Then we have the presentations. So then we have educational presentations.
Okay.
Again, there's a lot of them that are on the YouTube channel. We have one that's coming up with the IONS group in Portland. So we're partnering with them. And Erin Eisen, our educational research chair, is giving a presentation on, I think it's called non-local consciousness and psychedelics.
Wow.
So he talks about consciousness, and then he also talks about the science of consciousness, and psychedelics plays into that.
Yeah, because he was the one with the extra information. He adds that other layer.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So let's talk a little bit about where psychedelics are at today. Because you mentioned that we're in a psychedelic renaissance. So what does that mean to you? Why are we in a psychedelic renaissance?
Because it's time for an awakening on the planet.
And this is just a component of that.
This is a component of that. The way that I look at it is that, the pain and suffering is our contrast to what it is, who we can really be, and the absolutely magnificent, fabulous lives that we can be living on the planet. And the psychedelic medicines, MDMA and has been fast tracked for treatment for PTSD because of the amazing, and that's not actually a plant medicine, but I throw it in with psychedelics. The results that people get from using these medicines is phenomenally amazing. And it's, people will talk about, an ayahuasca journey is equal to 10 years of therapy. Yeah. And, the trauma resolution, people are recovering. Let's just be clear, recovering from severe PTSD as a direct result of, psilocybin therapy or MDMA therapy.
So do you think those sessions are helping them rewire their synapses in a way that they can get away from that traumatic reliving of those events? Is it something like, does it integrate something from the downloads that helps them get past it? What do you think it is?
Well, there's a number of different ways. So I'm just going to throw a shout out to Jane Latimer. There's a couple of YouTube videos on CPTSD and basically how psychedelics can be useful in treating that. What happens is people are able to have a different perspective on the trauma. And again, the preparation and integration piece of it is extremely important. So, people need to do their work before they go have this psychedelic journey, and then they need to be prepared to integrate it. People get this new perspective on the traumas. They get a new perspective of themselves. There's so many different ways that trauma can be resolved. I'm thinking of an experience that I heard of one time where, someone was, severely, traumatized by one of their parents, and in their psychedelic journey, they were flipped into being the parent. And they were seeing the whole scene from the parent's point of view. And then, had an experience of, just being able to see what the parent's trauma had been prior. And so their perspective was completely, totally shifted.
It allowed compassion to come in, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was like when they came out of the experience, it's like they were lifted up to a whole new level of consciousness about these traumatic events. And so, it's like, it's magic. It really is magic.
And I think that
It is,
there's, incorporating that aspect of something bigger than us. Like you have,
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
you're able to
Absolutely.
see the different point of view. You may be able to have the compassion element come into play, but the other layer is just knowing that there's something bigger than us. And whatever happens in, like you say, 3D in this dimension and our earth-based experience, we're going to transcend that at some point, and we're going to look back on it as something maybe even trivial. Could be like an illusion.
Basically, yeah.
But okay,
people talk about having the mystical, the component of the mystical experience with these medicines is, for most people that's key.
Right. That's the part that gets them past the trauma. It gets them past the trauma. It gets them past the judgment of themselves, the judgment of other people. Even if they did deserve the judgment, it's still a judgment.
Yeah, it's, there's so many different aspects to it.
So we're noticing, like we talked earlier, we're noticing that their laws are changing. The public attitude has relaxed. The general consciousness is shifting to a more positive attitude towards psychedelics. What does a psychedelic dispensary where you could buy psychedelics like weed, what does that mean for people? Does that mean that it's going to be like the Wild West of people having consciousness expansion experiences, or is it going to be more controlled? What does a psychedelic dispensary look like?
Well, that's a really big question. So, you have what's happening in Oregon now. So we have 109. There's going to be licensing for psilocybin therapists. There's going to be licensing for the facilities where this medicine is either manufactured or grown. So the Oregon Health Association is putting together a committee and advisory boards, and they're rolling that out over the next 2 years. The psilocybin therapy, the specifics on it are what they're talking about when they talk about psilocybin therapy. What they're requiring is only one preparation session and then one psilocybin journey. And then the integration session is optional. Those of us who've worked with this medicines know that there's a lot more preparation and integration that is needed for people to derive the highest benefit out of an experience. And also, you got to have some guardrails for people.
So you're saying that the integration aspect being optional is actually not a good idea?
Not a good idea, but that's what was written into the text. So that's where Portland Psychedelic Society gets to be present. And, we are this amazing community for the preparation and integration.
Yeah, you are the integration component. Like once, if it's not there for people, you're going to be there for people as a voice, as an ear for people when they have those experiences. But that's really interesting. So they're setting it up. You get to have one journey and what was prior to the journey? It was the journey, integration.
One preparation session.
Journey, and integration. So then
that's what's required. But people can set it up however they want, but we don't. But that's what is absolutely required.
Do they have to be clinical doctors?
No, they don't. The requirements for licensing will be determined by the committee and the advisory board. So the for sure right now is that you have to have a high school diploma. Well, it actually, I really appreciate that.
That's good. No, but it's just funny that's all so far. That's all it takes to lead somebody as a shaman through a mushroom experience.
And you have to be an Oregon resident for 2 years to getting the license. But the thing about this, Jake, is that there are these medicines have been used by indigenous people and for hundreds and hundreds of years, some of them thousands of years. So, ayahuasca, mushrooms, peyote, these medicines have been used for, thousands of years, not in a clinical setting. So,
it's not really designed for a clinical setting. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, that's a safe statement. I mean, it's, yeah. So the thing, it's really interesting, because if you're coming from, the, Western, psychotherapy, I'll say, point of view, right? And you go, oh, you know what? This medicine helps with trauma. It helps with depression. It helps with anxiety. So then you take that medicine and you drop it into your system, right? But then, what about, this medicine in its original state? What about, where it's been used indigenously, with shamans, it's just like something that's like a regular practice.
Yeah, it's very natural for them.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Ibogaine, with Iboga. So Iboga, it's Iboga root. It comes from the tabernacle tree in Africa. The Bwiti religion uses it as their sacrament. So, you go and have an experience in Gabon for an initiation with Iboga. It's way, way, way different than, being
in a cubicle.
Yeah. Well, yeah, having the isolated alkaloid Ibogaine, used in a clinical treatment model for detox. So, so you have these, these two very, very different worlds.
Do you know, I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you know anything about what Oregon has decided to, like, what are the parameters for the type of facilities that they're going to allow these people to have these journeys in?
There, in the text of the measure, there's, some specifics, it can't be by schools. I mean, there's certain things, it can't be in a residence. So they're leaving it pretty wide open.
Wow.
Nice. And, and again, that was my point, is that, was saying, oh, you have to have a high school diploma. In some respects, it looks like they're leaving some things pretty wide open, so that people who, if they choose to get licensed, it's more accessible for people. Now, what's also in the text is that if you are licensed, then you can only practice in a licensed facility. So you cannot facilitate a
retreat.
Outside of a licensed facility.
Yeah, you couldn't go to the coast, or you couldn't go to a redwood grove and have a wonderful experience. You have to keep it in the facility. But man, any entrepreneurs out there in Oregon, this might be the time to set up a facility, a nice facility for people to have psychedelic experiences. Sounds like all you need is a high school diploma. And eventually you can get licensed, and if you're the right frequency, you can guide people on these trips.
Yeah, but no, there's going to be more than a high school diploma to get a license. Yeah. And, and they do have it set up where, one entity can only have, they're limited to 5 facilities.
Wow. But can you imagine, though, a place where there's couches, maybe there's like a movie screen with like a Grateful Dead concert or something really beautiful. There's crystals everywhere and aromatherapy. And that's where you get to be for 4 hours with like 10 other people as you have psychedelic experiences. But then how to juxtapose this with the time of COVID? None of this is going to happen until the COVID regulations change.
It's a difficult thing to navigate.
It's like you have to plan now, get set up now, because when everything's back to normal, and the pendulum swings back to some form of normalcy, then you'll be ready to go.
No, that's kind of what's nice about this shutdown. I think is that there's a whole lot of stuff that people can be doing just in their lives, in their personal growth, and their spiritual growth, but business wise and regarding this, yeah. I mean, that's what's happening with Portland Psychedelic Society. The rate that we're growing at would never have been possible without this quarantine.
Yeah, people are home. They're on their computers. They're checking stuff out. They're not consuming media. They're not at the movies or wherever they're going to be, and they're finding you. Well,
guys. Yeah, and we have we've brought on 4 board members just since I guess April. High quality board members who are like ready to work. So I'm like strategically developing the board.
It's incredible responsibility you have. I'm really stoked that it's you. You're a sweetheart. You're really a genuinely good person. I think that you're the right person for the job.
Well, I am the right person for the job, and the job is right for me right now. And I think I mentioned this when we talked one of our conversations, is that for me, it's part of my integration practice. It's just, and what I get to see is how being volunteering with Portland Psychedelic Society is it's other people's integration practices. They find purpose. They find value. They get to recognize themselves as value. They connect with like-minded individuals. We mirror each other, really positively. And, like the conversations, I mean, like I call somebody to talk about, some like PPS business thing. And, then we like end up in these, conversations, and, 30, 40 minutes later, it's like, oh yeah, let me talk to you about why I called.
Well, that's what I noticed about our conversations. We were talking about wonderful things, and then I'd notice, oh my goodness, I can't believe, because you're a great person to talk to. And in a way, you're the shaman of the Portland Psychedelic Society, because you're helping facilitate all this stuff. You're the centerpiece that isn't really doing anything but helping people realize their own talents and potential. That's what a real leader does. It just kind of directs the flow of traffic, directs the flow of water, you could say.
I love that you said that.
Well, that's the vibe I'm getting from you.
Well, pretty much, yeah. And I get to be a channel. And, when I'm not doing my hands-on healing work now, but that was, when I talked earlier about having those like that DMT space that I would go into when I was doing the hands-on healing. It was like I would be so clear that I was just a channel for this energy to flow through. And that's what I get to do now. That's what I get to do with.
Well, it's pretty amazing. I mean, you're genuinely helping people. You're organizing people, and at the same time, new people are coming to the fold, and you're energizing them and giving them new information. It's really a positive thing. It seems like as humans, we have this incredible goal. We talk about this on the podcast a lot. We'll keep talking about it because it's so positive. It seems like humans are moving towards heaven on earth, like a conflict-free society where we live united. Oh, yeah. We have the technology. We have the spirituality. We got everything, and everybody's taken care of because really everything's infinite. So everybody has what they need and more. They have everything they want, and they're just we're living under the frequency of love. We're already there now, but we have to reawaken to that. And I think that these psychedelic groups, like your group, like MAPS, and these other groups, are helping people reawaken themselves and reactivate and move towards that heaven on earth scenario. What are your thoughts about that?
That's exactly it.
I'm just not a doom and gloomer. I don't do doom and gloom.
No, it's, I talk about connecting with all that there is, universal life force, spirit. People can call it God. You can call it whatever you want, but it's, uh, how do we connect there, and where is it, manifesting through us? And the all that there is, I mean, it's like everything. It's like infinite. It's infinite energy, infinite love, infinite creativity, and we get to be the channels for that. In my last medicine journey, like when I was in like the heightened state of it, it was like I was thinking about integration, and I was just started laughing, and it's like, how do you integrate this? I mean, how do you, like, it's ridiculous to like say, oh, I'm going to integrate this, infinite creativity, but that's what we do.
Right.
People, come back down in the 3D and they make this amazing art, and they create these amazing, businesses, and their relationships change, and, they go hiking more, or get more exercise, or, whatever their integration practice is, right? So yeah, it's, making that invisible visible.
And
And it is love, and it's like where we're all connected.
I think we
And then,
just need to reawaken and remember that that we're all a part of that great, like you said, the all, that bigger oneness. It's there. We're just out of tune. We're out of sync with it as a species. Not us, not myself, not Kayci, and I'm sure the listeners out there, so many of you feel the same way. But the general populace of Earth, they're out of sync. They need to get back into sync with those divine frequencies that are there, that we access during our psychedelic experiences.
well, and what I just want to say about community and what is being created within Portland Psychedelic Society, it's kind of that. Because, people, with my groups, I I set an energy for, inclusiveness, and, kindness, and that seamless participation, and that give and take. And, I mean, that's where it happens, is in community, like what we're talking about. I mean, it can happen in a business, and, in a family, but, this community aspect of it is really important, because it's
Yes.
like, you don't have to be a member of a family. You don't have to be, I mean, people can just come.
Well,
I mean, the only thing is just be interested in psychedelics.
it's nice to have affirmations. We've talked about that on a previous episode. It's good to have affirmations when you're having spiritual experiences, when you're developing yourself and evolving in that way. You interact with other humans that totally validate you, because they were in that exact same position, probably in similar circumstances, and had the same outcome. And they want to tell you about it. And it's very nice to have those affirming situations, because that helps you grow, because then you get the foundation. Once the affirmation's in place, then the foundation's there, and then you're growing even more. You're growing even more, and that foundation is so strong. And you can't do that without the community.
Well, and what's really interesting, Jake, what happens is that, so ultimately we're all one. So there's, nobody really is different from anyone else. We all have the same stuff happening. It's just happening at a different time
Right.
in each life. So, and what I find happens with me is that, I will be like, I will connect with people that are like resonating on the same growth trajectory, or like in the same area. So, I'm a coach and I'm a teacher. And so, like, something that's going on with me, miraculously, what will happen is that same subject will come up with my client, right? So I end up like teaching what I most need to learn, but it's like I go over here and I need to do my work with it, and then it's directly reflected in, maybe someone that I'm working with. But that happens a lot within Portland Psychedelic Society. So, these people who are, having these trajectories of growth, we end up connecting to each other, through volunteering, and or just people who are on the calls. And it's like the two energies together growing along the same lines of this trajectory. It's like it's so much more expansive. It's like something happens that would not happen with an individual, trying to do their own growth. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's very similar to what we talked about in your biography, the masterminding. It's like a psychedelic mastermind, because you're connecting different minds and then you're creating this one mind when two or more minds come together. And that one mind, when you're on the same trajectory, when you're on the same path, like you said, and you coincidentally are on the same path, you're then connecting and you're growing from each other. You're resonating. That energy field becomes that much more. But Kayci, we have as much time as we want, but we usually go about an hour and a half. But so we're creeping up on that, and I just want to thank you for being a part of the podcast. Is there anything that you want to leave people with? I always tell people, here's your chance to say something you really want people to know around the world. You really want to leave people with something, a profound thought. This is your podium. Here's your moment. What would you like to leave people with?
That the psychedelic renaissance is infinitely present and infinitely expanding right now through all kinds of ways and organizations and businesses. So come to Portland Psychedelic Society groups, get educated. There's a lot of other organizations that you can find out about through Portland Psychedelic Society. Me personally, I refer to myself as a psychedelic integration specialist, focusing on life transformation and holistic addiction recovery. I am working on a project called the Psychedelic Integration Collective, where I'll be, bringing a number of individuals together to help people figure out how to navigate this more on a one-on-one. So look me up.
Nice. And we can find you, of course, Portland Psychedelic Society.org, all one word, Portland Psychedelic Society.org. On Instagram, you can look Portland Psychedelic, all one word, and you'll find that. You can get in touch with Kayci. There's emails on there. Find Kayci. And then, of course, Meetup. Go to Meetup. Look for the Portland Psychedelic Society, because that's how I found the Portland Psychedelic Society, was through Meetup. Meetup.com. Join these groups. You want to have experiences, you want to share, you want to give, whatever you're at, wherever you're at, go to these places and become part of these groups. It's absolutely amazing. Kayci Mitchell, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. I'm going to play the outro music. Hold on the line, and everybody, we'll see you next week, Midnight on Earth.